In May 2026, Taliban Defense Minister Mullah Yaqub arrived at the International Security Forum in Moscow to sign a military technical cooperation agreement. This moment represents a completed diplomatic pivot for the Kremlin. A year earlier, in 2025, Russia removed the Taliban from its terrorist list and became the first global power to recognize their government. This partnership overwrites a decade of intense conflict. In 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, fighting a war that cost 15,000 Russian lives against the Afghan Mujahideen, the direct ancestors of the movement Mullah Yaqub now represents. During that phase of the Cold War, those Mujahideen insurgent groups were explicitly funded by the United States and trained by Pakistan for the sole purpose of killing Russian soldiers. Today, those same rivals are securing defense pacts. In modern geopolitics, immediate survival and strategic interests have the power to erase historical blood feuds. This realignment began with the exit of American forces in 2021. Their sudden departure created a massive power vacuum in the heart of Asia. Moscow faced a choice. They could ignore the reality of a Taliban-controlled Kabul or engage with them to build a regional architecture outside the Western world order. Despite the optics of the military pact, the Taliban is not sending fighters or weapons to the front lines in Ukraine. Its military is too stretched and its economy too broken to export its own security forces. Russia treats the Taliban as an outsourced border guard. Securing Afghanistan's northern border protects Central Asian buffer states like Kazakhstan and Tajikistan. The shared threat is ISIS-K. The Taliban fights this aggressive faction on the ground, preventing spillover into Russia's strategic perimeter. Moscow provides technical support for military equipment and offers political legitimacy. In return, the Kremlin secures a cheap, localized security force, allowing its own military resources to remain focused on Europe. On the southern side of the Afghan border, a very different outcome is unfolding. For decades, Pakistan's intelligence apparatus nurtured, funded, and sheltered the Taliban leadership. Islamabad assumed that once the Americans left, they would have a loyal and compliant neighbor on their western flank. Instead, the relationship collapsed into violence. The Afghan Taliban began disputing the physical border and providing a safe haven for the TTP, a Pakistani militant group conducting a campaign of violence against Islamabad's security forces. This friction has escalated into active military confrontation. Pakistani forces have conducted airstrikes inside Afghan territory, targeting these militants, resulting in civilian casualties and a complete breakdown in diplomatic trust. Islamabad spent 40 years cultivating proxy forces to secure its border. Today, that strategy has failed, leaving Pakistan isolated and fighting the very movement it helped bring to power. While Islamabad struggles, New Delhi has stepped into the void, seizing the opportunity to secure its own regional interests. India historically supported the anti-Taliban opposition and invested billions in the former Afghan Republic. Yet in early 2025, senior Indian diplomats sat face-to-face with Taliban officials in Dubai to coordinate the return of technical teams to Kabul. India's first priority is security. New Delhi demands assurances that Afghan territory will not be used as a staging ground by Pakistani-backed terror groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba or Jaish-e-Mohammed. Beyond security, India has a specific economic objective. It needs a trade corridor to reach the markets of Central Asia that does not rely on transit through Pakistani territory. To bypass Pakistan entirely, India relies on the Chabahar port in Iran. Goods arrive by sea and are sent directly north through Afghanistan, creating a vital trade link under Indian influence. By maintaining this presence in Kabul, New Delhi also ensures it can monitor and check China's diplomatic expansion in the region. Russia's engagement with the Taliban provides India with the diplomatic cover it needs. With Moscow signing formal pacts, India can deepen its own practical ties with Kabul without immediately granting the regime formal recognition. The alliances of the Cold War have collapsed into a new, cold pragmatism. Pakistan is bleeding out while fighting its former proxies, while Russia and India shake hands with their former enemies, proving that in geopolitics there are no permanent enemies, only permanent interests.